Hello, this is a talk about coffee. Actually, if you don't like coffee, it doesn't really matter because I don't drink coffee and I still work on that. It will also talk very much about Bluetooth, low energy, hacking, and this kind of stuff, of course. The other thing I wanted to mention before I start is that I like to do it in one single recording so that it is like more live to you. But this also means that, well, you will see my errors live. And if I say something wrong, well, it will be live. And, you know, it's the difference between that. Anyway, let's jump directly onto the topic. So it was a smart coffee machine, and actually there's a story behind that. And the story behind that is that I am one of the organizers of a CTF, which is called Foam. So I'll skip a little bit from the slides here and show you what this is. There's a reason behind it, right? It's not just pure advertisement. It's a capture the flag for smart devices, right? Which means obviously that we need to find challenges for connected devices. And those that we particularly look for are those which are on real devices, those that you can buy in a shop, kind of, right? And in 2017, for instance, we did one on a drone, okay? There's a video here. I'll skip to the part where it gets, so there it is. You've got the drone and the participants had to make it take off. Here it is taking off in that case. In 2018, it was a robotics arm where the participants had to pilot that and open USB fridge to grab some Coca-Cola. Right, so we thought, well, okay, now we need for 2019 something like that, something which is visual but a real connected device, and we need to do a challenge out of that. And after some investigation, we came to this smart coffee machine. It sells for not that expensive, around 130 euros, okay, on the net. And the thing which is a little bit strange, perhaps, is that it has only some connectivity through Bluetooth low energy. You can't pilot it using Wi-Fi. This was perhaps a little bit surprising, or Ethernet connection, either won't work. It's not supported, right? So it means that you've got to get your smartphone, pair to the smart coffee machine and request your coffee and go and get your cup of coffee, right? It doesn't come to you. And we thought, okay, well, I'm gonna work on that, do some research, and find a way to do a challenge out of that. The first thing you do when you have a Bluetooth low energy device is scan the various services that it has implemented and the characteristics. The service is kind of a container for various characteristics, and a characteristic is like this. It's a box. A label box. Well, this one has no label, sorry for that. Then there's a content. The label is kind of the address, the identifier of the characteristic, and the content is what you have in there, a value or something like that. That's basically how it works. And Bluetooth works by, querying the characteristics, so the boxes, and fetching data which is inside in the box, or putting data in the box. You can do that with plenty of tools. So this one is on the smartphone, NRF Connect. It is really handy, very good. You can also even send specific packets there to your BLE device. But if you don't want to use a smartphone, well, you can use tools on your laptop. So there are quite a few. Mirage is one that you might not know because it's not that well known, let's say, but it's really something that deserves to be better known, I think. So there it is, Mirage. I'm going to show you a little bit. Mirage launcher. I type in my password. And there it is, and you have like a prompt here, which is waiting for various commands. You can list the commands like that, or list the various modules, sorry, that you have. And for instance, if I want to see here what kind of devices I have around me, I'm gonna load the BLE scan module, and then I can list the arguments that I could possibly set. So I can set, for instance, the interface, and I'm going to run it. I run it, and well, you see, for instance, I've got here a smartwatch, which is close to my laptop. Actually, it's really very close. It's this one. And you can see other devices. I don't think I have very much there. It's got to wait it for it to end. And if I want, I can query the various services that it has and the various characteristics that it supports. For that, I first have to connect and then to discover the services which are around. So there we go. The arguments are there. So, well, I don't want to target this MAC into MAC address, sorry, but the one of the smart watch. Don't worry, I know this is about smart coffee. It's just an example because I no longer have the smart coffee machine with me, so I'm just giving you an example. It's just the same with the smartwatch or any kind of BLE device, but we'll get to the smart coffee machine afterwards, don't worry. There we go, and I run that. Should be working. Yeah, connection time is there. And you see it's pretty, maybe I can put that bigger. It's pretty neat because it gives you, well, all the services that it has. So there's a heart rate, for instance, service, and the characteristics of those. So this is the generic access service, which is a kind of standard. Device information service also is standard, and you get the serial number string for my smartwatch, which is there. Okay, so this is kind of a thing that you can do with it, with Mirage, and it's pretty cool. You can also use some other tool, which is called Bluetooth CTL, and this one is cool as well. So here, well, we see the MAC address of my smartwatch. That is because it had it in memory, but if we want to scan what we have, well, we put scan on and it's going to show what it has, and then I put scan off and then it stops scanning. Now I can start and connect to my smartwatch and type connect and the MAC address, attempting to connect. It worked, okay, and yeah, and now you can see it automatically tells you all the characteristics and services which are on the smartwatch, which is there. Okay, so this is cool. This is cool. There is another tool, and I think this is perhaps the best known, which is called GAT tool. This one. But it is obsolete, okay? So if you ever go on a forum for BLE and tell them, oh, well, you know, something is not working and I'm using GAT tool, they'll scream and tell you GAT tool is obsolete, go and use Bluetooth control. And to be honest, it works better, right? Nevertheless, if you use that, it's just the same thing everywhere. You connect. I could have done it with another tool. I connect and I try to read a characteristic. And I get an error here. Read it attribute requires authentication before read write. This is pretty explicit. Well, it's explicit if you know how BLE works a little bit. There are several security modes. The first one is you have no encryption whatsoever, nothing. Level 2, you will have encryption but no authentication. Level 3, you'll have authentication and encryption, and actually there is also a level 4 with some elliptic curve encryption, but I've never actually seen that implemented in any device, but it exists, right? Okay. So if we want to get rid of this message, authenticate requires authentication, what we have to do is authenticate. So this is level 3. This is what is done through pairing, right? Now in get tool, maybe I can do it here. Get tool. Well, it doesn't say level 1, 2, 3. It says level low, medium, and high. Low is 1, 2, and 3. That's the way it works. Okay. With Bluetooth control, it's more explicit. It just tells you, you say pair, and it will work. Let's try with that device, that smartwatch. I'm not sure it will work, honestly. I'm just trying. Okay, I'm attempting to pair with the smartwatch, and yeah, well, we have to wait a little bit, obviously. No, yes. That's one thing I need to mention, is that with Bluetooth, when something doesn't work, unfortunately, you sometimes have to try again, okay? It's not like it will work all the time, and that's the thing that makes it a little bit difficult. It's not just it works straight over all the time. It's not that, okay? Well, obviously it didn't work. I'll try again. Failed to pair. Okay. In progress. Okay, so it's already trying to pair, but it hasn't paired. Okay. Maybe I'm not able, maybe I'm already paired with another device on that smart watch possible, and it doesn't like it. I don't know. Anyway, it's the way to do it, okay? You pair, in that case, to the smart coffee machine, and if everything goes fine, you will get that pairing successful here. You can also do it with Mirage, and with Mirage what is really cool is that, well, you'll have to load the module which is called BLE Pair, but look at all the parameters that you can set. Actually all the keys which are used in pairing, you can set them very specifically and set exactly the bytes that you want. You can also set your capabilities. Oh, I have a keyboard, I have a display, things like that. So this is really cool. Unfortunately, when I tried Mirage, that was over a year ago, well, I never managed to connect with Mirage to the smart coffee machine. Okay. Now, Mirage has very probably improved, or maybe I did it wrong, I don't know, I never managed to do it, but maybe it's better now, right? Then, well, we do that, and then we try again to read that characteristic that we tried last time, this one. And we get another error this time, which is called attribute requires authorization before read-write. Now, it's really important. All the teams in the CTS, well, not all, but most teams in the CTS got this wrong, and we're telling me, okay, I probably need to do something really specific with pairing so that I get rid of this message. And I had to really give quite a few hints there and told them, no, you are already authenticated. You have paired successfully. Your authentication is successful. Authentication and authorization are two completely different things, right? You are authenticated. Your pairing has been said successful. You've got nothing more to do with pairing. You've got to do something after pairing that will indicate that you are authorized to access this or that service or characteristic. It's a very neat functionality of BLE. It is seldom used. I have seen this actually only on this smart coffee machine. And that's what actually made it interesting for the challenge in the CTF. That's why I used that. So how do I get authorization? Well, we know that as we are able to communicate with the smart coffee machine with a smartphone, we know that the smartphone has this authorization. It managed to get authorized. So what we are going to do is we're going to sniff all the BLE packets which are coming in or out of the smartphone, and look in there, right? There's plenty of there are several websites indicating how to set this up. It's not complicated. And then I'm going to show you, well, what we get for the packet captures. So I'm exiting that. My packet captures are over here. Wireshark on, it's BQ Snoop Coffee. So this is a log that I got from my own smartphone. And we open this up and you see you've got this protocol, HCI command, HCI EVT. Now, either you know very well BLE, and then this is really, you know what that is, or you don't, and then, well, you can just search for it. And Bluetooth has its own protocol stack, and we can just kind of Google around for this stack and see, hopefully, things which are helpful to us. So, well, this one doesn't show HCI, but we see L2 cap, which is here, at an SMP. Those are interesting. You'll see those afterwards. Yeah, here we see host controller interface HCI, which is there. Okay, so this is below SMP. SMP is the one which is called security monitor, I can't remember, protocol. This is where pairing occurs. So HCI is before, below, let's say in this tag. So it's not something that we will find, we won't find anything interesting there, sorry. So the easiest is just to sort through protocols, and we have ATT. This one is interesting actually, and then we have L2 cap packets which are there, and those SMP. SMP are the pairing. You say pairing request, pairing response, but we said that the authorization code would never be in those packets because it has nothing to do with pairing. Okay, so it has to be above. Above, well, we said no. L2 cap is not above SMP, so we could have ATT or GATT over there, which are roughly at the same level over here. So we're going to look into that. So we're going to look at the first view, and here what we see is what the smartphone is going all the time to try and discover all the services and characteristics that it sees on the smart coffee machine. That's the way it does it, and that's the way all devices that communicate with the BLE device do. So the first few packets are not really interesting because they are discovery packets over there, find file information. Do I have anything in those handles or not? Yes, we've got this or that. And it's not what we're looking for. What we're looking for is, well, the authorization code has to be sent after this discovery, but before we actually manage to brew our first coffee. Okay, so it will be just after that, probably. Oh, there, look. This one is changing a little bit. Here we're sending a read request, and we get the response 02. Okay, why not? Write request. This time we are writing something over to the smart coffee machine. And what could we possibly write if we are not yet asking for a coffee? Well, you've got it. It is the authorization code. Okay, to be honest, if you really want to find this out, you probably have to do a few tests. I've shortened the path of finding it, but there it is. This is the authorization code. By the way, it changes every time you reboot the machine, and it's different on every machine. So if you have the same coffee machine as I have, it's useless just to copy paste it. It's not going to work. Okay. So we've got it. That's pretty cool. Now that we have got it, well, we are able to read all the characteristics that we want. So now what we want to do is to brew our own coffee. We want to get some coffee. And for that, well, we are going, that's the way I did it. Well, I took the application, the smartphone application there, and reversed it. and tried to understand what commands they were sending to the smart coffee machine to get their coffee. And at some point I found a very interesting class which is called Brew Operations. And now I'm going to switch to this. This is Jeb. This is a reverse engineering tool for Android and for other platforms, but it's pretty good for Android. And we are looking in the Brew Operations class. Now again, I am really shortening the time frame here. It took me several days to find out that the interesting part I was looking for would be in Brew Operations, okay? Usually what I do is I work my way from the methods which are actually communicating with Bluetooth and sending packets to the characteristics, and then I see who is calling those and then who is calling the caller, and I work my way up through the stack to understand what are the important points. And here in this part there, in Brew Operations, you can see all the fields, there's quite a few, and the methods that it has implemented. And there are some pretty interesting methods. This one, for instance, write brew now, or write brew with temperature, or write recipe, or write schedule brew. Let's have a look at this one, for instance. Well, we see that it needs to be authenticated. Okay, well, we knew that. And then it is going to write a BLE characteristic. It will write to a BLE characteristic. Which one? Well, this one actually. And this one is defined over here at the top of the class. It is here, it is instantiated here, and we have its service UUID and the precise identifier for this characteristic. Okay, so we know exactly which box it is going to look into. Let's go back to the code. So it is calling that characteristic, and it is sending this payload, and the payload takes 0 and coffee type ID. So this is interesting. We see that 0 obviously is the time. Okay, so actually it tells the coffee machine, I would like to brew coffee in 30 minutes, in 1 hour, in, I don't know, 2 hours or something like that. And the coffee type is it a ristretto, is it an espresso, is it a lungo? And we see that the way it works is that, well, there's a fixed prefix, 3, 5, 7, 4, that's what it will send, those bytes. Why? No clue, it's like that. Then the time will be 4 bytes, and then 2 bytes for coffee type. That is the way to actually get your coffee. And actually I can show you that it works. I've got a video for that. And here I'm going to request a ristretto. I'll explain about this website a little bit afterwards. I think, yeah, I asked for a ristretto, and you see there it is working, and it is getting my coffee. And this website actually does the BLE command, which gets to the smart coffee machine and commands it to get my coffee. So that's how it works. There we go. So those are the slides. The coffee type, yeah, I hadn't shown you the coffee type, if you want to have a look at that. Coffee type is in this class, sorry, over here, in this class. And for instance, this method shows us that ristretto is coffee type 0, espresso 1, lungo 2. And then we've got some additional ones, Americano and hot water, but those are only, you see, from expert brew parameters, those are only for specific coffee machine, not the one that I actually had. So those are not working on all coffee machines. Okay, so this is how we can set the coffee type. So we know how to send a command to the coffee machine to get our coffee. We could have got it also from the packet capture. That's another way to do it. So let me find it. So I said we are going to request send something to handle 24. 24. Got to find one. There it is. So you see here we send 03, 05, 07, 04 and zeros. So this means that we were requesting immediately for one coffee because the time is 0, and the last 2 bytes are 0 as well, which means I was asking at that time for a ristretto. Okay, that's also how it works. So it's interesting, different ways to work out what is happening, but reverse engineering the smart application is, of course, gives you lots of information there. So then, well, that's what you saw in the video. I did a web interface there. That's because actually, normally, you just do it with your smartphone. And if you want to pilot the smart coffee machine, you need to be paired. But then think if one of your colleagues, if you're in a company, okay, and you want to share the coffee machine with colleagues, well, your colleagues are going to have to do a special combination on buttons on the smart coffee machine to unpair the previous colleague. Then they need to pair their smartphone to the coffee machine and then to request a coffee. Okay, this is really too complicated, or in a family it's really too complicated. So I thought I'm going to simplify this process and share the coffee machine by using one of those new Raspberry Pis. And the Raspberry Pi is going to act as the only one which is connecting to the smart coffee machine. And it will be the only one doing the BLE packets to the smart coffee machine, and the other ones, every other person in the company or in the family will just have access to a website which is on the Raspberry Pi. And that's what I did. Okay, so we can request a ristretto, an espresso, or a lungo, and well, it works. Basically, we can get what we want from the smart coffee machine. You might notice here that we can actually also configure the cup size. Okay, normally a ristretto, for instance, is 25 milliliters, but actually you can configure that a little and do anything between 15 and 30 milliliters, right? And so this is pretty cool. This is something that I found while I was reversing the application in the cup size operations class. So it is here. Cup size, well, you see that there is a service, a characteristic. So there's one for cup size and one for volume. And then, yeah, sorry, I didn't show you. We get the complete description, identifiers to get to those characteristics. Then if we want to modify, for instance, to configure the cup size, well, we see that we need to be authenticated. And then that we have obviously to set the cup size type, and also the cup size volume. So we need to say, okay, I want to set a ristretto to something else. And then the volume. The volume, this is how it works. It's implemented here. Well, we write to a given characteristic, this one, volume characteristic, and this payload gets cup size volume data. And we see that this is the volume, 2 bytes, and then -1, so this will be FF behind that. And for the coffee type, well, we see that it's perhaps just above to set the cup size. The payload is get cup size kind byte buffer, this one, and we will basically just set 0, 1, 2, the various coffee identifiers for the cup we want to specify. So that's how we can actually customize our cup size, and this is pretty cool because the standard application does not have this feature, right? So this is something which is actually in the code but hasn't been made available through the application, so we are able to hack or kind of our coffee machine that way. And that's one of the things with the last challenge that people had to do in the CDF to hack this coffee machine. So if we want to do it, we have to connect to the smartphone, to the smart coffee machine, pair, get the authorization, then specify which cup we want to customize, then set the volume, and then finally we disconnect, and then it persists over time unless we specify something else, a new volume, and then we change the settings. There are a few limits though, and this is good because you can't set whatever volume for a ristretto. Ristretto has to be in between 15 and 30, things like that, which is pretty good. So I'm going to show you also this video for that in action. So here I am trying to get a coffee which will be with 70 milliliters, right? And for that I am configuring the size of a cup, which is the longo, and saying it should be 70 milliliters. Now, if you have a close look, here, this is the normal volume for an espresso, this is the normal volume for a ristretto, and this is the normal volume for a longo. You'll see we are going to end up in between. There you go. You see, so we really did have 70 milliliters here. It's not quite a longo, it's far more than an espresso, so we really managed to hack the coffee machine and customize the cup size in that particular case. So it worked, and that's good. What else? So at phone, 17 teams managed to find the authorization code, and well done, because it's not that easy. I mean, at first to understand really how BLE is working. One team managed to brew some coffee without using the smartphone application, the standard application, and then one team nearly managed to customize the volume, but didn't finish on time. You only have, like 8 hours there at phone, so of course, and plenty of other challenges, so it's always, you've got to be very quick, and it was a bit short, right? But really good results there. If there's some feedback there about using BLE, and you have some BLE device that you want to hack or do some research on, what I would have to say is that I encountered really crazy bugs with sometimes connecting and disconnections, they weren't expected, things like that. And all of this disappeared, well, most of it disappeared when I upgraded my stack to Blue Z 5.5. So really it's important, upgrade to one of the latest stack there, which is perhaps not the default one that you have on your system. It's really important because there are really lots of bugs and more stability with the new ones. Also, I really did like Bluetooth CTL, which is a tool I hadn't really used before, and I think it is nice. It is interactive, and in my code, so my WebFresso, my web interface, that I am using this one. Sorry. yeah, this one, I put all the code on GitHub. So let me show you, yeah, here. It is GitHub, CryptApps, WebPresso. Feel free to use it, it's shared. And you have all of that. Basically, the web interface is used with Flask. It's very simple because I'm not very good at web interfaces. And then the web interface basically just calls one script, which is called brew.sh, which is a script written using expect. And expect is really quite interesting because it's particularly done to pilot interactive tools, and this is really perfectly suited for Bluetooth control. So here you say, for instance, that Bluetooth control has a prompt, which is going to be hash. Okay, you launch it, and then you send, just like you were writing, connect to the given address in Bluetooth control, and then you tell it, okay, expect this or that answer, and depending on that, do this or that. And this is just helps you work with an interactive tool, and I really like that. Otherwise, it would have been kind of difficult to do it. So, yeah, this is something else which is really good with BLE. Also, I found it pretty good that the smart coffee machine had buttons, physical buttons on it, and special combinations to unpair or do a factory reset. This was really extremely helpful during phone because well, we were able between teams to reset completely the coffee machine in a standard and normal situation. Otherwise, it would have been a nightmare because a team could have, you know, put the coffee machine in a strange status, and it would be very difficult for the next team to play with it. So that was cool. The other thing also is that if you have such a coffee machine or another one which is really similar, well, you find lots of documentation on the web, like, you know, really detailed one there where you have exactly what is inside. You have also teardowns of similar coffee machines. You can easily find replacement pieces of the coffee machines on eBay. For instance, you can find a new flow meter or the PCB here which handles the buttons. This is cool because it makes it repairable, and you know, in an area where it was sometimes we kind of throw things away, well, here if you want to repair your coffee machine you can, and I find that pretty cool. Before I say thank you for your attention, although I do say it, I can show you also another short video with the interaction with the smart coffee machine. You can also get the error messages from the coffee machine, and that is cool because it gives you some information of what is happening. And this is one of the case. So I was asking for a ristretto here, and it tells you the slider is open, please close it. So the slider is the part where you insert the coffee capsule, and this one had been left open and hadn't been closed afterwards. So it tells you that kind of message. Well, actually it gives you an error code, and then you translate that to an understandable message. So that is good. So as I said, thank you very much. You have the URL here if you want to go and see my code and use it for your own coffee machine. Of course, you are welcome to come and play to phone. It is in the south of France, and normally this year it will take place in January 2021. And lots of kudos to other phone organizers, and thanks again also to B-Sides Munich organizers for giving me the opportunity to speak through this video to all your attendees. Bye-bye, thanks.